Elias Merrick's heart pounded as the ground beneath him shuddered. Sparks leapt from the alien armor across the throne room floor, sizzling through the air with a scent like burning ozone. The hum of energy was loud, almost deafening, vibrating through his bones. Every guard and servant froze, staring at the queen as she towered on the raised dais, her voice a thunderous roar that shook the walls. "Who dared repair my armor?" she demanded, her alien eyes glowing like molten gold. The metal plates on her shoulders flexed and hissed, a strange blue light running along veins in the metal as though the armor itself were alive. Elias barely had time to breathe before the first arc of electricity jumped from the floor, singeing the air around him. He rolled to one side, his human reflexes saving him from being burned. The tools in his hands, the ones he had designed himself, rattled as he scrambled to his feet. Sweat stung his eyes and every instinct screamed at him to run, but he couldn't leave. Not when the queen's armor was on the verge of collapse. Something deep in the core of it pulsed erratically, emitting a shrill vibration that made his teeth chatter. Elias gritted his teeth and darted forward. His fingers worked quickly, adjusting a tiny stabilizer at the base of the armor's energy conduit. Sparks shot out, striking a guard's leg and knocking him back, but Elias held his ground. One wrong move and the armor could explode, destroying the entire throne room, and possibly Elias himself. The queen's roar grew louder, reverberating through the chamber. She leaned forward slightly, the tension in her stance sharp, controlled, but unmistakably furious. Her voice cut through the chaos, demanding obedience and explanation. "Step forward, human. Explain yourself." Elias swallowed hard, knowing that the wrong words could mean death. Still, he stepped closer, holding up the small device he had welded and modified himself. A human creation, foreign to the alien world, humming faintly with blue light. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline, "I repaired your armor because it was unstable. If I didn't act, it could have. A sudden surge from the armor threw him backward, slamming him against the wall. Pain shot through his ribs, but he refused to let it stop him. Pulling himself up, he noticed a flicker in the queen's eyes, something curious hidden beneath the fury. The very armor she trusted to defend her was failing, and only he, an ordinary human, had seen the flaw, understood it, and acted. The court murmured in shock. Guards whispered to each other, some stepping back in fear, some narrowing their eyes in suspicion. Aliens had never relied on humans in their history, and yet here was one, standing amidst their chaos, making sense of their most sacred technology. The room seemed to hold its breath. Elias adjusted the stabilizer again, this time with more precision. The blue pulses slowed, then stabilized for a heartbeat. Sparks still flew, but they were smaller, less dangerous. A tiny victory. He allowed himself a brief moment of relief before another tremor from the armor knocked him sideways. His hands grazed the glowing plates, the heat intense, almost burning through his gloves, but he didn't let go. The queen's roar turned into a sharp hiss, her tone shifting, her anger mixing with astonishment. "You, a human, you actually touched it?" The words were almost lost in the crackle of energy, but the meaning was clear. Aliens who saw humans as weak, fragile, incapable, they had underestimated him. And now, her suspicion battled with curiosity. Suddenly, the room darkened as the core of the armor flared brightly, brighter than before, casting long, sharp shadows across the walls. The floor vibrated, and a low hum, almost like a heartbeat, filled the air. The queen's eyes widened, not with rage now, but with recognition. Something within the armor, something ancient and mysterious, had responded to Elias's human logic in a way no alien mind had predicted. Elias froze for a moment, realizing that he hadn't just stabilized the armor. He had triggered a reaction in its core. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like it was alive. His own pulse raced faster than ever. One wrong move could ignite it into a full explosion. One right move could save an entire kingdom. The queen leaned forward on her dais, eyes blazing, her voice a whisper now, sharp and commanding at the same time. "Step forward." "Who repaired my armor?" Elias hesitated. The entire throne room waited, the tension thick enough to taste. Every breath, every heartbeat seemed magnified. He could step back, hide, let someone else take the blame and maybe live. But he couldn't. He had acted when no one else would. Slowly, deliberately he raised his hand. The court gasped. The queen's golden eyes locked onto him, and for a moment everything stopped. The sparks, the murmurs, the hum of energy. Elias's heart pounded, but he held that gaze, calm and unyielding, knowing that the smallest human hand could change the fate of an alien queen, and perhaps much more than that. A sudden crackling noise erupted from the armor, louder and sharper than before, throwing a shockwave through the room. Guards stumbled and the queen's armor flared once again. Elias's raised hand hovered in the air, frozen, as if the universe itself waited for the next move. Then, a deep, unexpected vibration pulsed from the armor, like a warning or a promise. Something bigger than the throne room, bigger than the court, was about to happen. And in that instant, Elias realized this was only the beginning. Elias pressed his hands against the glowing conduit, feeling the heat pulse through the metal like a living thing. The queen's eyes never left him, sharp and unyielding, but now mixed with something else, curiosity. Her golden gaze studied every twitch, every movement. Around them the court buzzed with nervous whispers. Some guards clenched their fists, unsure whether to strike him down or step aside. The air smelled of ozone and molten metal, and sparks still leapt from the armor in chaotic flashes. "Explain yourself, human," the queen demanded, her voice low, vibrating through the room like a warning drum. "How did you dare touch my armor without permission?" Elias swallowed. He knew a wrong word could cost him his life. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline, "your armor was critically unstable. I saw a fault in the core conduits. If it overloaded, the energy could have exploded and destroyed this entire hall." The queen tilted her head, almost imperceptibly. Elias noticed the flicker of doubt in her eyes. He took a step forward, gesturing to the humming device in his hands. "I repaired it. I stabilized the energy flows. The armor is functioning now because of my work, not because it would have healed itself." A sharp laugh echoed from the back of the room. One of the alien advisors, slim and angular, stepped forward, pointing a clawed finger at him. "Do you expect us to believe a human touched the sacred armor? You are a weak species. You do not understand the power you meddle with." Elias met the advisor's gaze without flinching. His hands never stopped working, adjusting the conduits in tiny, precise movements. Sparks flew, but the pulses steadied with each adjustment. "I understand more than you think," he said. "I saw the fault before it became dangerous and I acted. If I hadn't, everyone here would be dead." The queen's roar cut through the argument. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice vibrating with authority. Sparks burst from her shoulders, and a sudden surge of energy lit the room like a miniature storm. "Human," she said, slower now, deliberate, "why should I not strike you down where you stand?" Elias felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his eyes on her. He had one chance to prove himself. "Because I saved you, Your Majesty. Because this armor is not just metal, it responds to logic, precision, human ingenuity. It could not have survived without me." The room went silent. Even the hum of the armor seemed to pause, as if listening. A subtle tension hung in the air, thick and electric. Guards shifted, unsure how to react. The queen's golden eyes narrowed. "Logic, human ingenuity?" she repeated, almost in disbelief. At that moment, the energy core of the armor flickered violently, the light inside it pulsing like a heartbeat gone wrong. Elias's heart jumped. Something deeper than mere failure stirred in the armor. A signal, a reaction he couldn't yet understand. The conduits hummed, responding not just to his hands but to some unknown code embedded within the armor itself. Suddenly, the floor shuddered beneath them and a faint, low vibration ran through the chamber. Elias realized it wasn't just the armor, it was the building itself reacting to the energy surge. One wrong move now, one miscalculation, and the shockwave could level the throne room. He adjusted the stabilizer again, carefully redirecting the flow, but sparks shot higher this time, searing the air. A guard yelled and fell back, while another scrambled to help him, but Elias waved him off. "Stay back," he shouted. "One wrong touch and it's over." The queen leaned forward, resting both hands on the arms of her throne. Her expression softened slightly, curiosity replacing anger. You actually understand it?" she said, almost a whisper. "No human has ever approached it. Tell me, what do you see inside?" Elias took a deep breath. He didn't fully understand it himself, but he could describe what he knew. The armor isn't just protective. It's alive in a way. It reacts to energy, movement, and thought patterns. I traced the instability to a small section of the core. Someone tampered with it. It wasn't broken naturally. This sabotage could have killed you. The queen's eyes widened, and for the first time, fear flickered across her face. A guard beside her muttered under his breath, and Elias caught the movement, a small, deliberate adjustment in the armor's energy conduits. Someone else was in the room, hiding in plain sight. Elias's pulse quickened. He realized the stakes were far higher than he'd imagined. This wasn't just a broken suit of armor. Someone inside the palace had tried to kill the queen. He had repaired the armor, yes, but now he had uncovered a much bigger danger. He glanced at the queen, whose eyes now shimmered with both caution and respect. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "there's more here than just a malfunction. Someone tampered with your armor deliberately. I need to trace it before it happens again." A sudden flash erupted from the armor, brighter than before. Sparks shot in every direction, and a loud crack split the chamber like thunder. Guards shouted, ducking for cover. Elias's hand hovered over the conduits, frozen for a heartbeat. The queen's eyes narrowed, and then, she smiled, faintly, in a way that made him shiver. "Step forward, human," she said, her voice low but commanding. "Show me what you see." Elias knew he was about to walk into the heart of the palace's secrets, and that every second now could be a test of life or death. As he took a cautious step closer to the queen, the armor's core pulsed one last time, almost like it was warning him. The real danger was only beginning. And from somewhere deep in the shadows of the throne room, a hidden mechanism clicked. Elias's fingers hovered over the armor's conduits, feeling the vibrations pulse like a heartbeat. The queen's golden eyes never left him, sharp and calculating, but now mixed with a trace of curiosity that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Around them, the court had gone silent, the tension so thick it pressed against his chest. Every guard, every advisor, every servant seemed to wait for the next move, as if even the air could betray them. He focused on the glowing energy core of the armor. Something about the way it pulsed felt different now. Not just alive but intelligent, responsive. He leaned closer, studying the patterns of the energy flows. Tiny sparks danced along the conduits, forming shapes almost like symbols, and a faint hum carried a rhythm he couldn't ignore. His mind raced. He had repaired the armor, yes, but now it was sending signals he had never seen before. A sudden click echoed behind the throne, soft but deliberate. Elias's head snapped toward the sound. One of the alien advisors, the slim, angular one who had mocked him earlier, was crouched low, pressing a strange device against the floor. He had been hiding in plain sight, tampering with the armor's energy circuits. Elias's pulse shot up. That explained the earlier instability, the way the armor had surged unpredictably. Someone inside the palace wanted the queen harmed, or worse. His mind raced, calculating possibilities. The human brain excelled at logic, pattern recognition, improvisation. He had seconds to act. He adjusted the stabilizer, sending a small surge back through the conduits. The armor pulsed in response, almost like it recognized his touch. Sparks flew higher this time, and the queen leaned forward, her voice trembling between fury and amazement. You sense it," she whispered. "No one ever has." "Yes, Your Majesty," Elias said, his voice calm but urgent. "It's responding to the saboteur. I can trace the source if I act quickly." He stepped closer to the armor, careful not to trigger another overload. The energy core pulsed in sync with the saboteur's hidden device. Elias followed the rhythm, his fingers dancing across the tools and conduits, translating alien energy signals into human logic. It was dangerous. One mistake could fry the circuits, send sparks flying, or worse, trigger the armor's self-defense systems. But he had no choice. The queen watched him, leaning on the arms of her throne. There was something almost fragile in her posture now, a silent trust she had never shown to another being. Elias caught it and used it. His mind sharpened, breaking down the alien signals into patterns he could manipulate. Step by step, he traced the hidden device through the floor and into the shadows behind a tapestry. A sudden surge erupted from the armor, hurling him sideways. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he rolled with it and grabbed the hidden device. Sparks arced around his hands as he disconnected it, sending a final pulse through the armor. The energy stabilized immediately, humming evenly, no longer chaotic. The room exhaled collectively as if relieved. A small victory. The queen's eyes softened, but suspicion lingered. "You uncovered it," she said slowly, her voice low. "You could have been killed. Why did you risk yourself?" Elias straightened, feeling the heat of the room but keeping his composure. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "No one else would act. If the armor had exploded, you and everyone here would have died. Humans may be small, but we fight when it matters most." The queen's lips pressed together, a mix of thought and admiration crossing her features. For the first time she didn't roar, she merely observed him. The advisors shifted uneasily. They had never seen a human act like this. Calm under pressure, clever, decisive, unafraid to face a threat far beyond ordinary comprehension. But the victory was short-lived. As Elias caught his breath, the armor pulsed again, slower this time, almost like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Then a faint inscription appeared along the inner plating, glowing briefly before fading. Symbols he couldn't read but patterns he could follow. They hinted at a warning, a message embedded deep in the armor's design. Something ancient, something beyond the Queen's immediate knowledge. His stomach twisted. The sabotage was only the beginning. Someone had altered the armor to conceal this message, hidden in plain sight for centuries. Elias realized that the Queen's life had been endangered, but more than that, the message hinted at a threat far larger than any single palace. A threat that only a human mind, unbound by alien traditions, might decipher. The Queen's gaze sharpened again, and for a moment, Elias felt the weight of expectation pressing down. She had relied on him, trusted him, and in doing so, he had glimpsed something far bigger than any repair job. "Tell me," she said, her voice steady but demanding, "what does it mean?" Elias shook his head slowly. "I don't know yet. But it's not just armor failure. Someone planned for this, planned for me to find it. And if I'm right, this is only the start." A subtle vibration ran through the floor, faint but insistent. Elias's eyes darted toward the walls. Something shifted behind the throne, just a shadow this time, a movement too quick to identify fully. The saboteur wasn't alone. There was more lurking, waiting. The Queen's golden eyes widened slightly. "More?" she asked, but she already knew the answer. Elias swallowed hard, heart racing, realizing that the stakes had escalated far beyond palace politics. The armor, the hidden message, the saboteur, they were pieces of a larger puzzle. A puzzle that could threaten not only her life but the entire alien civilization she ruled. He took a cautious step toward the shadow, tools ready in his hands, mind alert. "I have to see it," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "I have to stop it before it's too late." Then, without warning, a bright, blue pulse shot from the armor's core, stronger than anything before. It illuminated the entire room, casting long shadows and revealing something moving in the darkness behind the Queen's throne. Elias froze. Whoever, or whatever, was there had just made itself visible. And in that moment he knew the real danger had only just begun. Elias's hands shook slightly, though his mind was razor-sharp. The shadow behind the throne moved again, faster this time, a silhouette too angular to be human. Sparks from the armor crackled around him, filling the room with an eerie blue light. The Queen rose from her throne, her golden eyes narrowing as she tried to identify the intruder. Guards scrambled, some drawing weapons, but Elias shook his head. "No," he shouted. "We can't fight blindly. One wrong move in the armor, everything will blow." The figure stepped forward, revealing a lithe alien with sharp features and glimmering armor, unlike any Elias had seen before. The saboteur, yes, but more than that, someone trained to manipulate the very energy running through the palace. A flick of their wrist and sparks erupted from the floor, knocking a guard sideways. Elias ducked just in time, rolling to the side and keeping his eyes locked on the moving threat. The Queen's voice cut through the chaos, low and commanding. "Stop him or you will all perish." Her hands glowed faintly as she tried to stabilize the energy from her armor herself, but Elias noticed the strain in her stance. Her body was powerful, but even she could not control the surges alone. Elias realized the solution had to be both clever and precise. He couldn't fight with brute force, humans weren't strong enough. Instead, he focused on reading the patterns of the aliens' attacks. Each pulse, each spark, followed a rhythm, like a sequence he could anticipate. He adjusted his stabilizer once more, letting the armor's energy flow through him, connecting with the pulses. He was no longer just repairing, he was guiding. The saboteur hissed and lunged, striking a small device toward the armor's core. Sparks erupted violently and the room shook. Elias dove, grabbing the device mid-air, and yanked it away, rerouting its energy through a makeshift circuit he formed with his tools. The armor pulsed, brighter than ever, almost like it had recognized him as its ally. The Queen's expression softened briefly, awe mixed with fear. You actually understand it?" she murmured. Elias didn't have time to respond. The saboteur wasn't finished. They activated another device, this one embedded in the floor. A shockwave rippled outward, throwing guards and advisors off their feet. Elias lunged forward, rolling over the scattered debris, his hands gripping the conduits. He rerouted the energy just in time. A flash of light erupted, but the armor stabilized. A small cheer rose from a few brave guards who had not been knocked down. Mini payoff. Elias's heart pounded. He realized the saboteur was not just after the Queen, they wanted to manipulate the armor to send a signal far beyond the palace, a beacon that could alert hostile forces across the galaxy. Every second that passed without stopping it increased the risk exponentially. He glanced at the Queen. "Your Majesty," he shouted over the crackle of energy, "I need access to the inner core. The saboteur is trying to send a signal. If we don't stop it now, it won't just destroy this room, it will call reinforcements." The Queen hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Do what you must, human." She stepped back, her armor flaring briefly in a defensive pulse as if granting him protection. Elias moved quickly, opening the armor's access panel with his tools. Blue energy flowed over his fingers, tingling but not burning, as he traced the sabotage device's interference lines. Every connection he severed, every conduit he stabilized, made the energy pulses steadier. Sparks still flew, but they became less chaotic, less threatening. The saboteur hissed in frustration, realizing Elias was undoing every move. They lunged toward him with claws extended, but Elias reacted instinctively, pivoting the stabilizer to release a small surge of energy directly into the floor. The shock threw the saboteur off balance, giving Elias the opening he needed. He plunged his hands into the inner core, following the hidden instructions the armor itself seemed to offer. Symbols glowed beneath his touch, forming patterns he could intuitively follow. It was dangerous. One misstep and the armor could explode. But human logic and quick thinking gave him the edge. He traced the sabotage lines back to the shadowed device and ripped it free, sending a final pulse of energy racing through the conduits. The armor stabilized completely. Sparks ceased, the hum softened, and a steady glow replaced the chaotic pulses. Guards and advisors cautiously rose from the debris, staring in disbelief. The saboteur had been thrown back by the energy surge, groaning but alive, their devices fried. Mini payoff, the immediate danger was over. The Queen stepped forward, her golden eyes wide. "Human," she said, her voice trembling, "you have done what no alien could. You saved not only me but this entire palace. How did you survive?" Elias straightened, breathing heavily but resolute. "Because I had to, Your Majesty," he said. "Because humans fight when it matters most. Courage, focus, and thinking faster than danger itself, that's what keeps us alive." For the first time, a faint smile crossed the Queen's lips, though concern still lingered in her eyes. "You are remarkable," she said. "Remarkable and terrifying. One human has altered the fate of this court." Elias nodded, glancing at the still glowing armor. But even as relief washed over him, he noticed something strange, a flicker beneath the core, subtle and almost imperceptible. The hidden symbols he had seen earlier pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat that refused to die. He frowned. The sabotage had been stopped, but the deeper mystery remained. A low vibration ran through the room again, almost like a warning. Elias realized the armor was reacting not just to repairs but to some external influence beyond the palace walls. His mind raced. The saboteur was defeated, yes, but the signals hinted at a much larger threat. Something waiting, watching, ready to act. The Queen's voice broke through his thoughts. "Human, you have done well. But your journey is not over. I sense that your mind has touched something ancient, something dangerous. You must remain vigilant." Elias swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He had survived impossible odds, faced a skilled adversary, and stabilized alien technology that no one else could. Yet, the subtle pulse in the armor reminded him that the real danger was only beginning. And then, without warning, a second, sharper pulse erupted from the armor's core, brighter and faster than any before, sending a wave of energy across the room. Guards stumbled, sparks flew again, and the Queen's eyes widened in alarm. Elias froze. Whatever was coming next, it wasn't just the saboteur. It was bigger. Far bigger. The pulse faded, leaving an eerie calm. But the message was clear. The battle was far from over, and the true challenge was only beginning. Elias stepped back from the armor, hands still trembling from the last surge of energy. The room was quiet now, save for the faint hum of stabilized power running through the Queen's armor. Sparks had vanished, replaced by a soft, steady blue glow that illuminated the shocked faces of the court. Every guard, advisor, and servant stared at him, disbelief mixed with awe. The Queen lowered her hands from the arms of her throne and studied him carefully. Her golden eyes, once blazing with fury, now shimmered with something Elias had never seen before: respect. Slowly, deliberately she spoke. "Human, who repaired my royal armor?" The entire throne room held its breath. Guards froze mid-step, advisors leaned forward, whispers cut short in the air. All eyes turned to Elias. He had the choice to stay hidden, to remain small and unnoticed, but he had already proven that humans didn't step aside when it mattered. Slowly, deliberately he raised his hand. The gesture was simple, almost humble, but it carried the weight of every action, every risk, every spark that had flown in the last tense hours. The court gasped. Some guards blinked in shock, some muttered incredulous exclamations. Elias's heart pounded in his chest, but he held his hand steady. The queen's gaze softened slightly, awe breaking through the remnants of anger. "You are responsible for this?" Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried authority that made every ear in the room strain to hear. Elias nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I repaired it, stabilized it, and uncovered the sabotage. The armor is safe because I acted when others hesitated." A ripple of murmurs passed through the court. For centuries, humans had been seen as fragile, weak, incapable of understanding alien technology or defending against threats of their magnitude. Yet here was one standing amidst chaos, showing courage, intelligence, and composure far beyond any expectation. The queen rose fully from her throne. Her massive form towered, her armor humming gently, stable now, but she no longer seemed untouchable. "You have changed how I see humans," she admitted. "Perhaps I have underestimated your kind." Her golden eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him hold his breath. "Elias Merrick, you are remarkable." Elias allowed himself a brief moment of relief, but there was no time to linger. His mind raced. The sabotage had been revealed, yes, but the faint pulses he had seen in the armor's core hinted at something deeper, something beyond the palace walls. He had stabilized the immediate threat, but the armor itself had more to tell. The queen's voice cut through his thoughts again. "Your human logic, your courage, you have saved more than my life. You may have saved this court, perhaps even this city." She gestured to the faint glowing patterns within the armor. "But I sense, this is not the end. You have touched something ancient, something far larger than yourself. Tell me, what did you uncover?" Elias shook his head slowly. "The sabotage was only part of it, Your Majesty. The armor, it contains a message, something encoded in its energy core. I can't read it fully yet, but it's not just a warning, it's a signal. Something, or someone, is out there watching. Waiting." The queen's expression hardened. She turned slightly, scanning the room as if expecting another ambush. "Then we must prepare," she said quietly. "This human may be our key, but we are not ready for what comes next." Her words sent a chill through Elias. The stakes were far higher than he had imagined. For a moment the room felt suspended in time. Elias's gaze swept over the court, shocked advisors, wary guards, and the queen herself towering above him. A sense of accomplishment mixed with tension. He had acted decisively, prevented disaster, and exposed treachery that could have destroyed the palace. Yet he could feel it, the pulse within the armor, subtle but insistent, reminding him that the true challenge had not yet arrived. The queen stepped closer, her massive form dwarfing him, but her expression was calm, measured. "Elias Merrick," she said, her voice carrying both authority and respect, "you have earned my trust. You have proven that courage, intelligence, and compassion can defy even the impossible. But the universe beyond these walls is vast. And now, it knows that one human can alter its course." Elias nodded. The weight of her words settled on his shoulders. Humans were small in the galaxy, fragile, underestimated, but he had shown that ingenuity and determination could tip the scales. He felt pride, but also a warning in his chest. The pulse in the armor had not stopped. The ancient signal was still there, waiting to be deciphered, and he could sense that its meaning would challenge everything he knew. Suddenly the armor's core pulsed once more, faster and brighter than ever. The queen's eyes widened. "It begins," she whispered. The court tensed, bracing for whatever this new signal would bring. Elias stepped closer, reaching out instinctively, connecting to the armor as he had before. The energy hummed in response, almost like it recognized him. The hidden message within its core was no longer dormant. Something was coming, and only a human mind, his mind, might understand it, might guide them through what was about to unfold. The court held its breath. The queen's expression was unreadable, a mix of anticipation and wariness. Guards shifted nervously. And Elias, standing at the center of it all, realized the truth. He had survived sabotage, stabilized alien technology, and earned the trust of a being more powerful than any human could imagine. But now, the real challenge was only beginning. The pulse from the armor grew stronger, vibrating through the walls and floor, almost like a heartbeat echoing across the city. Elias felt it in his chest, in his bones. The queen's eyes narrowed, focused on the glow. "Prepare yourself, human," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "The universe will soon demand more from you than you have ever imagined." Elias swallowed, heart racing. He had faced impossible odds and won. But the pulse reminded him, the story was far from over. Somewhere out there, a greater mystery waited, ancient and powerful, and he would have to confront it. And as he looked at the glowing armor and the queen standing above him, Elias knew one thing with certainty: humans could shine even in the face of impossible odds. The chamber fell silent, but the pulse of the armor continued, steady and insistent, a promise of adventure yet to come, and a warning that the galaxy's secrets were far from solved. The story was over, for now. But something greater was coming.